So yesterday we started with our day one of the demo series on business analyst training program. Okay. We started with few topics as in what a business analyst does, okay, how a business analyst is executing different tasks within the IT industry. All our discussion is with respect to a business analyst working within the IT sector. Then we gradually moved on to different myths, prerequisites for this training program, and we saw the course content. Okay, what are the different topics that we are going to cover? Now, for those different topics, what I would like to show you guys is also the course content actually, how the entire topic that we are seeing is divided into various parts. Okay, so the first one starts with the business analyst introduction, wherein our key focus is to build the basics for the people who are transitioning from non-IT to IT as well. Okay? Plus, for the people who are already working in the IT industry, probably they may be aware of these concepts, but it will still act as a good refresher and a knowledge booster for them as well. Okay? Then we move on to specific skill sets within SDLC. So, for example, how do we identify stakeholders? How do we manage stakeholders? What's RACI matrix? Okay. Then what is meant by a requirement? What are the different types of requirement? What is meant by requirement elicitation? What are the different requirement elicitation techniques? What is requirement document? Why is it important? What are the different types of requirement documents? And then requirement traceability metrics. Then we gradually move over to agile, where we will be focusing specifically on scrum framework. So we'll try to understand what agile is, what are different agile frameworks, like I said, particularly focusing on scrum within agile. What are the different scrum events? What is epic? What is user story? How do we write down a user story? What are the essential components of user story? How do we measure effectiveness of a user story? What is meant by velocity? What is prioritization? How the story estimation takes place? And then we'll, towards the end of the course, there will be a case study that will be given as an assignment. Okay, now right throughout the training we'll be taking relevant examples as part of our case study, and then continue to build on to them with each topic. Now continuing on with this information, so what are the different tools that will be used by a business analyst? Okay. Now, particularly, there will be three important tools. Okay, these are, one is Jira, the other one is Microsoft Visio, Draw IO, or Lucid Chart, and the last one is Microsoft Office. Okay, so these these tools, so they are, the first one is Agile Lifecycle Management Tool, or what we often refer to as ALM. Now, out under this ALM category, one of the popular tools is Jira. Okay, how do we use Jira to manage product backlog? How do we use Jira to create epics, user stories, provide backlog grooming to our team members? Okay, and then how do we prioritize and estimate for the user stories? Okay, so all that takes place through Jira. Now, organizations can either use Jira or any other available ALM tools like IBM's or Agility One or Version One, whatever they feel comfortable with. But it's just that the most popular one being is Jira. Okay. Then we need to do requirement modeling activity. That is, we need to create relevant flow charts, okay, or diagrams. For that, we need Microsoft Visio or Draw.io or Lucid Chart. Okay? It could be any of the tools. All these tools, they pretty much work the same way. So it's just that the brand is different, okay, or the company that has created the tools is different. Okay, otherwise they all pretty much work in the same fashion. And then we keep referring to documentation aspect. Okay? So for the documentation aspect itself, we are mainly relying upon Microsoft Office, within Office, Word and Excel. Okay? So these are essentially the three different tool set that a BA must be aware of, out of which during our course we will be covering onto these two. Okay, there will be specific session on these two, but the last one, Microsoft Office, Word or Excel, it is assumed that everyone has basic knowledge of these two tools. Okay, Word and Excel. Obviously, you can build on top of that, but how to create a document, okay, how to format the documents, all that basic knowledge, it is assumed that the people are already aware of it. Now the next question that you guys might be thinking is that how much time will it take to cover the entire training program? Okay, so there is no fixed duration. Okay, but from our side, we have kept the training program at 30 hours. Okay, it's a 30-hour training program. Now, the training duration may increase as well depending upon how interactive the student gets. Okay, if the students are more involved, they are asking a lot of doubts, questions. Okay, we don't discourage students from asking questions, so obviously the duration may increase as well. But we generally try to cover the entire course within 30 hours. Okay? The training will be taking place from Monday through Friday, only on weekdays. Okay? No classes on weekends. Weekend classes are more dependent on students. Okay, if everyone agrees, then we can connect over weekend as well. But here is a basic split up of what happens week by week. Okay? If you want to see it, so when we were discussing about course content, we divided it into five different pillars. Okay, so these five pillars are what we have explained over here as well, week by week. Okay, so week one we start with the basics, understand what business analyst is, understand what SDLC model is, okay? How, what IT industry is, what are the different people you'll be interacting with. Once we have built the basic knowledge, okay, so then we build on top of it. That's where you see every week the knowledge pillar size increases. So then in week 2 we deep dive into stakeholders. Who is a stakeholder, how do we manage them, what's the requirement gathering process. Then we move on to documentation aspect and requirement modeling part. Then we move on to agile and scrum principles, discuss everything related to scrum. And then the week 5 will be applying your knowledge with respect to whatever we have covered so far. Now one more point that I have not covered over here is, and that is still part of the training, but we'll cover it in upcoming slides. Now, post week 5, okay, we will be focusing or spending some time on preparation activities as well. What are these preparation activities? These are basically getting you ready for the job interviews. Okay, so we will start with the resume preparation first. So, post completion of course, there will be effort on preparation activity as well. Okay. So what are we basically going to do as part of preparation activity is we'll be spending time on preparing a resume for you. Okay. So therein we will discuss what are the different key aspects of writing down your resume, what are some of the keywords, responsibilities, okay, that you should be putting down in your resume. I will also be giving you a sample resume for reference. Okay. Once you look through that, once you go through our class, okay, the expectation is that the students will build their own resume, okay, and then share it for review, okay, whether any more changes are needed or not. Okay. After that, we will be spending approximately 2 to 3 days to go over some of the commonly asked interview questions. Okay. What are some of the commonly asked interview questions and how do you respond to those questions? Okay. So we'll again go it over the next 2 3 days. So that will be our week 6. Now while we are going through these topics, okay, students will parallelly be given a case study, so that while we go through these topics during our live class, students can go back, practice these, plus practice on their case study. And if they have any questions, let's ask them. Okay. So there's no point in just going through a course and then not preparing for the interviews as the final part. Now this particular slide over here, it talks about what are the different learning outcomes from this training program that we have at Harsha Trainings. Okay. So essentially what it means is, once the 30 hours training program is over, what am I expect to learn? Okay. Maybe I started with some information. Okay. I enrolled in this training program. Okay. After 1.5 months or so, what am I expected to learn out of it? Okay. So there will be certain skills that you will gain. Okay. For example, you will learn how to manage stakeholders. Okay. As a BA, we discussed it yesterday as well, that you will be in a client facing role. Okay. Whenever you are in a client facing role, it is essential to master the art of stakeholder management. Okay. Unless you manage your stakeholders efficiently and effectively, okay, it will be difficult for you to execute your BA work. Okay. So we will be starting with that point, that how to effectively and efficiently manage our stakeholders. Okay. The second skill set is, once you know how to manage your stakeholders, then the next important point comes up is, how do we elicit requirements with the help of stakeholders? Okay, if you see the first point, learn how to elicit requirements from stakeholders. That is basically identifying what's the right elicitation method or technique that I need to select in a given scenario. Requirement elicitation technique will help you get your requirements from the stakeholders. Now once you have the art of managing stakeholders, once you know what's the elicitation technique I need to apply, basically you will get the information. Post that, the important part is documentation. Okay. Documentation not just with respect to what requirement should I be writing in requirement document, but also with respect to the creation of flowcharts or diagrams as well, validating the requirements, analyzing the requirements, prioritizing the requirements to ensure that we are able to guide everyone with respect to where the project should be headed towards. If you remember, yesterday we were taking the example of Google Maps. We said, what is Google Maps doing? It is helping you reach to your destination. How is it helping? By providing us directions. Okay. And that's what we as a BA are also be contributing in our projects. Okay, we will guide the team. In order to guide the team, what is one thing that everyone will look for? Documentation. Okay, now anything that we do, obviously it requires introspection. Okay, what are we doing, how are we performing, and then accordingly improve further upon that. Okay, so as a BA also, once we gradually spend some time around these core technical topics, we will develop a better understanding on how do we manage requirements. Okay, and then what are the key changes that we need to bring in into our style of work. Okay, that's essentially, in a nutshell, what are the key skills that we will be developing. Okay, other than that, what we will also be seeing right throughout the training program is basically, like I talk about, different technical activities. Stakeholder management will include RACI matrix. How do we create a RACI matrix? Okay, what are the essential components of a RACI matrix? Then we talked about flow charts. Okay, so what are the different flow charts that we as a BA will have to focus upon? How do we create those flow charts? What are the essential components of a flow chart? Okay, now, because we will be starting new, so we need some kind of metrics to evaluate whether we are writing down good requirements, good user stories. So we will be talking specifically about those evaluation techniques as well. For example, SMART criteria, invest criteria that will be used to accordingly evaluate requirements and user stories. Okay, so we will be seeing how do we use those techniques as well. Okay, then we will also validate how a business analyst will help in solution verification. Okay, though I am not involved in designing a solution, I'm more involved in writing down a requirement, but we can still use our knowledge of requirement or the business processes to validate if a solution will work in our favor or not. Okay, then at the end, see, the important part is you can get the information anywhere. Okay, but over the 30 hours of this training program, our goal is that you get to talk about the technical terms that are being used as a business analyst. Okay, the key difference between someone who is already working in IT industry, say for example, if you are already working as a developer, as a QA, versus a person who is actually working as a BA, is the usage of technical terms. Okay, so for example, if someone asks you what's your primary goal as a BA, okay, a regular person would say that to interact with client and gather requirements. Okay, this is not a wrong answer, that you will be working with client to gather requirements. Okay, but a BA on the other hand will provide the same answer but in a more technical terms. For example, instead of using the word client, they will say to interact with stakeholders by using an appropriate elicitation technique to gather requirement, which can eventually be translated into a requirement document. Now compare these two responses. The first response, wherein the person said that to interact with client to gather requirements, versus the second response, where you are saying that as a BA, I interact with stakeholders by using an appropriate elicitation method to identify requirements, elicit them, or translate them into a detailed requirements, which can eventually be transformed into a requirement document. Okay, so you see the difference between the two responses. Now all that it takes is actually to be aware of these technical terms so that you can use them confidently, not just during your job interview, but even post job interview during your work as well. So that is what will differentiate between someone who can actually be considered to be working as a BA versus someone who is just trying to portray as a BA. And that's where most of these students actually fail, or they are not able to clear interviews, probably because of incorrect usage of the technical terms. Now with that, I'll take a pause over here and see if there are any questions from you guys. Yeah, I'll consider the silence as no questions. I hope you guys are able to follow along. However, if there are any questions, like I said yesterday, I mean, not just during the course, but even post the course as well. If you have any doubts, questions, at any point in time, you can reach out to us on this number. Yeah, I'll mention in the chat box as well. So, so that during the course, after the course, during the course, if you have any questions, you can call, you can ask now itself. But if you have any questions post this demo series is over, you can at any point in time reach out to us for any Q&A as well. Now, yesterday someone was inquiring about the certifications. Okay, so I said we'll be covering on day two of the training program with respect to what are the different certifications available. Should you go for these certifications or not? Okay, but before that, at the end of the course, okay, so let's say that you have attended the training program at Harsha Trainings. Okay, plus you completed all the requirements for the training program, that is your assignments, the requirements for the training program, so you will get a training completion certificate from us. So you'll get a training completion certificate from Harsha Training that you have attended business analyst training program and that you have successfully completed all the requirements associated with it. Okay. Now, this training completion certificate should not be misconstrued as the certifications offered by IIBA. IIBA is one of the prestigious recognized bodies on business analysis. Okay. So it stands for International Institute of Business Analysis. Okay. It offers different types of certifications to demonstrate your level of expertise as a business analyst. Okay. Now, generally, if you are working in India and if you are applying for jobs within India, there is no mandatory requirement of having a certification. That's the general rule. Now, I'm not saying that organizations cannot ask for certifications, but generally if you look at the job description or the job information that's provided, generally there is not lot of emphasis or focus on having a certification, but the emphasis or focus is definitely there with respect to experience, that you should have 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6, 7 years. Okay, there will be some level of experience that will be expected from you. Okay, whether you apply in India, outside of India, wherever you apply, people generally expect some level of experience. Okay, but along with experience, is certification mandatory? Okay, at least in my experience so far, with whatever job descriptions I have seen, I've not seen a lot of emphasis on the certification. That's where I do not recommend students going for certifications upfront unless you are working from a country or from a place where certification is absolutely mandatory. Okay? Without certifications, no one will give you job. Okay? So if you take a look at Scrum Master related certifications or project manager related jobs, sorry, Scrum Master jobs or project manager jobs, okay, one of the essential things that is mentioned in the job is you should have a Scrum Master certification or a PMP certification, project management professional. Okay, so these things kind of become mandatory with respect to job, but at least when it comes to BA, I have not seen it. So I do not recommend students going for certifications straight away. Okay. Does that mean they should never do certification? So that's not the point. Okay. The point is, before you get into the job, if certifications are not mandatory, why to go for the certifications? Instead, what I say is, get a job, okay, spend some time in that job, okay, probably you can say 9 to 12 months, because in the initial few days, weeks, or maybe 1 or 2 months will be spent in getting to know your team, okay, setting up accesses. So you may not get lot of work upfront itself. Okay, so maybe a couple of weeks to maybe 1 or 2 months, you may not be contributing a lot as a BA, okay, when you join a job. But over the next 9 to 10 months, you are expected to work a lot, get some good projects under your belt, okay, and then demonstrate your skill sets as BA. Now this is the time, okay, when you can go for certifications. Okay. It will offer you two benefits. One, you can ask your company to sponsor your certification, so that way you don't have to pay from your pocket. Second, you would by now you would have gathered some real time experience as well, plus a confirmation that you want to continue your journey as a BA as well. Okay, there's no point in simply doing certification for the sake of certifications. Okay, see, certifications, if you are not confident, if you are not knowledgeable, will only add pressure on you when you appear for job interviews. So if the certifications are not being made mandatory for BA, why to go for it before job interview? All I'm trying to say is, once you get into a job, once you spend some 10, 12 months into your job, okay, then request your organization to sponsor for your certification. Okay. And but in case if you are working from a country or a place where certifications are mandatory for applying for that job, okay, so this training program will enable you to appear for ECBA. Okay. IIBA offers different certifications, but three key certifications related to BA are ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP. Okay. ECBA is your entry level certificate in business analysis. CCBA is your certified certified course. That means you have intermediate level of knowledge. You are not an expert. You are not a newbie. Okay. And CBAP is your professional level certification. Okay, in business analysis. Okay. That means with CBAP certification, you can be considered as an expert in business analyst. Okay. Obviously, these certifications will definitely help you further. Okay. But the only expectation is, if you want to appear for certifications, I would say probably wait till you get a job. Okay. If you feel like certifications are mandatory for appearing for a job, then post this training program, you can appear for ECBA certification. Okay. Because all other certifications, for example CCBA and CBAP certifications, they require a referral from an existing CBAP professional. Okay. Someone who can vouch for you and say that you have the relevant experience. Whereas ECBA exam doesn't require any such referral. You can directly enroll all by yourself and kind of, agree or declare that I have the necessary experience. Okay. Now these fees that are mentioned over here are as of December 2024. Okay. Most likely these fees would have remained the same, but they may change as well. So when you appear for the certification, you will actually get to know the exact price. Yeah. Now most of these certifications, earlier when we used to do a certifications, those certifications will remain valid for your lifetime. Okay. Now things have changed or evolved. Now no one is giving certification with lifetime validity. Okay. So all these certifications will come with a 3-year validity. So after every 3 year, you will have to renew them. But suppose if you have a CCBA certification and it's valid for 3 year, let's say on third year you appear for CBAP, okay, then you don't have to renew your CCBA because you appeared for CBAP, so both will be renewed. But after 3-year completion at CBAP level, you will have to renew your certificates again. Okay. So for renewal, you need to earn 60 CDUs. Okay. So there will be different events that will be organized by IIBA. So you can either act as a volunteer, participate in those events to earn CDUs, or you pay for some money and then get the required CDUs to renew your certification. Okay. Now I'll again take a pause over here, see if there are any questions from you guys. Okay, I'll take the silence as no questions. So you see, entry level certification, just to cover one more point. Okay, it doesn't require any such minimal experience with respect to working as a BA. All it requires is the 21 hours of training program. So when you enroll for any of these training programs, you will be generally given a guide, a babook guide. Okay, that's basically will cover all the course content as well. Okay, but CCBA and CBAP, along with training, they require a lot of experience. So for example, CCBA requires approximately 3700 hours of experience. CBAP requires 7500 hours of experience, and whether you have that experience or not, how will IIBA validate that? They will validate through the referral. Okay. So you cannot directly appear for a CCBA. You require a referral from someone at CBAP level, okay, to refer you. And when they are referring you, they are kind of vouching for you that I know this person and this person has the required experience and knowledge to appear for the certification. Now, next we move on to the career growth part. Okay. Now, this is important. Okay, so why are we working on any kind of job? Why we want to take up any job? Probably either because I have deep interest into that area, okay, or it offers good growth perspective, or it could be a mix of both as well. Okay, maybe I'm interested, plus I also know that this field will offer me good professional growth as well. So if you are already interested, if you have a deep interest, keen interest into business analyst, if you feel that this is what I should be doing in the IT industry, okay, then you don't need anyone else to convince yourself why you should be going up there. But in case if you are more driven by the professional growth, so we will cover that topic over here. So the entire business analyst part could be divided into three segments. The business analyst growth part, okay? Entry level, mid level, and senior level. So entry level is more about working as a junior business analyst or business analyst by mainly focusing on the tasks that are assigned to you alone. Okay. So maybe I'll let you know that you are going to work on ABCD project, who will be the stakeholders, what is expected out of you, plus there will be someone to guide you as well. Okay, knowing that you do not have the relevant experience, maybe you have 2 years 3 years of experience, so there will be someone to guide you as well. Then eventually you transition from a junior BA into more of a senior BA, and then a lead level role as well. Okay. Now here you will be again working upon finishing up the assigned tasks. Okay, but along with that, what will happen is you will be also responsible for acting as a guide or mentor for junior BAs. Okay. Plus, if you are a lead, if you are playing the role of a lead, maybe you will be managing a team of BAs as well. So when I say guide or mentor junior BAs, it is not just about resolving their doubts related to the work part, okay, but also taking up training programs for your team to share your experience. Maybe you worked on a complicated project where you face lot of challenges and you came out with good amount of learning. Okay, now you want to share that learning within your organization. Okay, so you want to share that learning with other BAs as well. So you just don't guide your junior BAs with respect to the work, but also the amount of learnings, plus how they should be responding, taking up sessions, training programs or sessions time to time. Okay, and if you are a lead BA, on top of all this, managing a team of BAs. Okay, then comes the last part. Okay, so nowadays what we talk about is product owners. Okay, generally if you are working as a senior BA or a lead BA in agile environment, you will be more likely to work as a product owner. Okay, because a product owner will be in a similar role. Okay, so a product owner will be having multiple BAs under them, and it's the duty of the product owner to guide them, to tell them what needs to happen, and also set the different expectations for them. Okay, so eventually what we want, where we want to transition is, though we may start as a junior BA, but we want to see ourselves getting into the roles of product owner. Okay, if you are already in an experience range of, let's say, 10 to 15 years, suppose you already have 10 to 15 years of experience, it may not necessarily be in IT industry, in other industry, or maybe in IT but into different roles, then you are already at a level where people would expect you to start performing the role of a product owner. If you are having relatively lesser experience, you can still work as a BA, but for people who have 10 plus years of experience, it is, a normal expectations, at least in India, that you will start work taking up the responsibilities of a product owner rather than just being a business analyst. Okay, in other countries in Europe, USA, you can still continue to play the role of a business analyst, but it's just that there will be higher expectations from you. Yeah, with 10 plus years of experience, you should have a good domain knowledge and client management skills as well. Now, after product owner, we eventually want to transition into product managerial roles. Okay. Eventually you can get into senior leadership. I'll not talk about senior leadership because that's a common path for everyone. Okay. Whether you are a developer, QA, or into BA, okay, eventually everyone goes up the pyramid level. Okay. And when you go up the pyramid level, what's there at the top is leadership level roles. Okay. But for the roles till where you will be working predominantly or focusing on your BA related part or business analysis related part is up to these points. Okay. Now naturally BA offers you good competitive pay scale as well, and it offers you good competitive career growth as well. Okay. It will not be something that can be easily derived as a BA. One of the key expectations from you is that over time, maybe when you join an organization newly, you may not have necessary knowledge about the business processes. Okay. But over time, the expectation is that you become an expert over these. Okay. Now let me elaborate it. Business process. Okay. And once you become an expert, you should you should help the organization and your client as well with appropriate recommendations or changes in the product. Okay. Now, no one will specify what these changes should be, but just to give you guys an example, so what we implemented last year was it's a very simple change. Okay. So what happened is in health insurance, whenever we were getting member details, within member details we expect something as date of birth. Okay. Since the data was coming from data was or it was US health insurance, so the expectation is that the dates would be coming in this format. Okay, MMDDYY. When it goes into our tables, the tables will have the database or the tables will have format as. Now, because it was an old code, so the way it was written is that you will get the data in this format and then you will translate the data into this format. Okay. Now, what we did is when we were spending some time, I didn't know like what recommendation or changes can be made in the product. Okay. So what we did was we started reviewing some of the production tickets. Okay, just to see what kind of errors did we receive during enrollment of a member. Okay, so one of we saw multiple areas where multiple errors being received. Now one of the errors that we particularly focused on was this one. Why? Because it was relatively easier to implement. Now when you implement a change, it is easier to convince client. Suppose if I go to client and say that, you give me 1 week, I have a very small change. I mean, we will not say that it's a small change. What we will say is, there is an error. If you give me 1 week, I'll fix that error, and I'll show you the changes in our software, okay, how those errors have been removed or gone from our system. Okay, now when you commit for something and you deliver it, you are likely to gain the confidence of your stakeholders. When you get the confidence of your stakeholders, it means that you can ask them for more work in future. Okay, they are more likely to trust you. If I take up a big work which requires lot of time, lot of people, lot of budget for implementation, the stakeholders will be reluctant at the start. So what we do is, we pick up a small work which can be implemented quickly at a lesser budget. Okay, because for everything that you are working upon, stakeholders will have to shell out some money. So they want to shell out as much less as possible. So what we try to do is, we focus on something that can be implemented easily with minimal impact. Okay, plus it requires minimal cost as well. So out of all the errors that we saw, we realized that, some of these errors would require more time. More time means more money. Okay, plus the impact is on the higher side as well. So why don't we pick up something which can be implemented in lesser time and has minimal impact as well. So we picked up this error, and you know what we did as part of the solution? No changes in the code. Okay, so in the UI part, in the user interface, okay, it doesn't matter whether you tell everyone to enter date of birth in a specific format, still they can make some mistakes. So what we did is, in the user interface, rather than asking someone to type in their date of birth, we gave them a calendar. Okay, you select your date of birth from the calendar, that's it. No one will have to type anything. Typing can lead to mistakes. So the simple solution was, replace the typing part in the user interface with a calendar. Once you replace it with calendar, all users will have to select their date of birth from the calendar, and system will auto populate the date in the required format. Okay, so they just selected the date of birth from the calendar, and the system would see the date and put it in the required format, which is this one. Okay, so naturally when it comes to our system, it will automatically be translated from this format to this format. Okay, so we started seeing less errors related to date of birth. Now obviously in our system, when you are seeing 100 errors, okay, 100 errors, and suppose if 10 of them are related to that date of birth, now what will happen is, next time onwards you will see only 90 errors. Okay, so the clients or the stakeholders see it as an improvement, that I had 100 errors, now I am down to 90 errors only. So similarly, you can then target onto next errors. Okay, when you achieve something, it is easier to convince clients or stakeholders to give you more time, more money to work on removing other errors as well. Okay, so that is one part. Okay, about a recommendation or changes, that is to evaluate what kind of errors you are receiving. Plus, one more change that you can bring in is, when you use a software. Okay, when you use a software, over time you will realize whether that software is user friendly or not. Okay, so my recommendation or changes doesn't necessarily have to come from errors. It can come from my experience as well. That okay, so the recommendation or changes can come from experience as well. Any questions? Okay, I'll take the silence as no questions. Everyone, we are at the end of our presentation. Okay, so today is only the second day of demo series. We'll be having one more day in this demo series, that is tomorrow. Okay. So tomorrow we'll be covering two more key aspects. Okay, we talked about difference between business analyst and scrum master, that we will cover tomorrow. Difference between business analyst and data analyst, that also will cover tomorrow. And towards the last 20 minutes or so of tomorrow, we will be covering about the impact of AI can have on what a business analyst does. Okay, so these three topics broadly we will be covering tomorrow. So do join us tomorrow for the last day of demo series.
I got a quick question.
So did Kamal drop out? So someone was trying to ask a question there. Sorry, was someone trying to ask a question? I thought I heard someone trying to ask a question. Okay, if there was no question, well, thank you everyone. We'll connect tomorrow at the same time and cover the remaining topics as well. Please bring in your questions again tomorrow. Okay, thank you.